Ladies and gentlemen, Legionnaires, welcome to another episode of RPG Die Gest. Thank you for coming. We're talking about Mage the Ascension. And in this segment, in this video, we are going to talk about the world of darkness at large. All of the games in the world of darkness exist at the same time in the same place, but you are playing Mage. Do you have to introduce vampires? Do you have to have werewolves running around? Do you have to have wraiths haunting people and throwing candlesticks across the room? Do you need to do that? Well, we're going to find out right now.
The core values of #RPGate and any good tabletop group are escapism, not representation, entertainment over activism, and natural, organic inclusion, not forced diversity. Please follow that QR code or refer to the description below for the link to the charity we support, which is the Wounded Warrior Project. Thursdays and Saturdays, you can watch the Dirty Casuals on twitch.tv/Legion of Myth. Fridays and Sundays, you can watch the Friday Night Show stream and RPG Digest on our YouTube and Rumble channels. Please leave us a comment with your thoughts and experiences, and if you like our gaming content, please be sure to subscribe to Legion of Myth.
All right. Hello, everyone. And with me is Adam from Mage the podcast. And he's going to help us talk about the world of darkness at large. All the different games existing in the same universe. Do you use them? Do you not? What does he do? How does he introduce, if at all, other factions of supernatural beings that are supposed to exist in the same world, but don't really have to? So, Adam, how, with a new group in mind you, how, if at all, do you introduce different game systems, supernatural creatures into your Mage campaign?
Let's see. Now, thinking with a new group, I would still do it, but in small doses, because every new thing, throws a complication into their understanding. So with a new group, I mean, yeah, just generally speaking, there's so much to do in the Mage books that if you never bring in something from another part of the world of darkness, you've got plenty to do. You've got plenty to work with, and that's great. Sure. Usually it's a matter of preference. When I talk to people, it's like, you put other stuff in your game. It's more a question of, do I want to rather than do I feel like I have to? It's like, if I don't, am I missing anything? No, like I said, there's plenty in the Mage books, but I played other World of Darkness games before I came to Mage. And so, yeah, I have that preference. It's like, I think some of these things are cool, and I think it's fun to put them in. And again, I like to reinforce this basic theme in my Mage games that the world is bigger than you think. There's always more you don't know.
Right. And with mages, that's even more so correct, because they have access to the Tellurian, or the multiverse as a whole. At some point, they might even go dimension hopping. Now, werewolves do that a little bit with spirit realms, but mages go to other shard realms of existence, all kinds of nonsense. It's all open to them. So running into these other supernatural creatures that exist in the same universe is much more likely as you rank up, so to speak, as a mage and start traveling the world or multiverse more readily. Now, with that in mind, which supernatural creature would you feel most comfortable introducing first? For example, vampires, werewolves, demons, changelings, wraiths. Which one do you see as the easiest to get people's feet wet on introducing other supernatural factions?
Okay, to answer that question, I would say wraith, which is a game term in World of Darkness for ghost. Yeah. Or a vampire. And vampire, not only because they are a popular element of the World of Darkness, but also because in the world of the game, there's a lot of them.
That's true. Yes, so you're going to be more likely at night, if you're in the wrong part of town, or if you're at a major event, there's going to be a vampire around.
Yeah. One of the interesting things about World of Darkness games is vampires can make more vampires. So if a specific group of vampires in a specific city say, we want more vampires in this city, then they go make more and they have more.
Yeah, and you could introduce the player characters to vampires by one of those vampires trying to turn you into a vampire.
Yeah, that is a possibility. Yeah. As with mages, some people awaken and become capable of magic. and some don't. And mages can't change anything to make more people awaken. It's like, look,
No.
we're stuck with the
Well,
people we got.
you can try, but it's not a guaranteed success like it is for vampires for the most part.
Yeah, if you read the mage books, there's no book that says if you do this, you'll get more mages. I mean, if a storyteller wants to do their own thing in their own game, go for it. But I mean, according to the published mage books, there's no rote or magic item that makes more mages.
Someone and have it work every time.
Yeah, except for the very tail end of 3rd edition, there was like one minor exception, but it's such a minor exception. I'm not going to go into that rabbit.
Okay, yeah. Unlike a vampire, who there is a set procedure to create more vampires. You follow this procedure, and 99 times out of 10, you're gonna make another vampire, right? That's great. For werewolves, you're either born that way or you're not. That's pretty binary. It's pretty simple at that point. For wraiths, well, when a human dies, they could turn into a ghost, right? That's how it works, you know?
Yeah, more than half of them don't, but a lot of them do, and there's a lot of people dying, and it's like, we got a fresh supply.
Exactly right. So vampire and wraith are the easiest because wraith, I think, would be super, super easy just because anyone with Spirit 1 can see them. You can just have them be there. And then the player characters will interact. They will be introduced to a wraith NPC, and they can talk to them, whatever. You know, if you have enough dots in Spirit, you can talk and interact, whatever. And then vampire would be the next easiest, just because of all the other supernatural creatures, they are the most populous. They rely on humanity more than the other supernatural factions, because not only they use them for food, but they use them for social interactions, because vampires are more social creatures than werewolves. Werewolves, they're pack only, whereas vampires like to be seen, like to be known, like to, experience the human condition for the most part, more so than werewolves and wraiths and stuff like that.
Yeah, and also vampire. If you say vampire and ghost, your players are like, yeah, I know what that is, and you have
they'll understand. They'll have an idea of.
And they probably understand it the way you understand it. So.
Right. So, what do you think is the hardest of the other World of Darkness supernatural games to introduce into a mage campaign? The most difficult?
It's a matter of opinion. I mean,
I'm asking your opinion.
I don't have an automatic go-to. In fact, I had not really formed an opinion on that up until this point. But now that I think about it, for me, the hardest other World of Darkness thing to drop into Mage, if I had to pick one, I would say Changeling, which is a World of Darkness game term. It means someone who is half fairy and half human. And there's a number of them, and they've got their own society, and they call each other changelings. They have fairy powers, but not as much as full-blood 100% fairies. And their powers, you have to know the game of changeling well in order to portray their powers correctly, because with most World of Darkness special powers, it's like, it can do this, it works like this. Okay, either the supernatural creature does it or doesn't. But with changelings, there's this whole added factor of banality, belief, confidence, stuff like that. It's like you can have a changeling who has a lot of really strong changeling powers, and they walk into a place and they try their changeling powers, but depending on the situation, depending on who they do it on, it might have zero effect. It might have a lot of effect. Again, you have to know a lot about the nuts and bolts and moving parts of changeling to portray changeling powers at all. And so, yeah, for me, that's asking for the storyteller to know two full World of Darkness games really well.
Mm-hmm. And with Changeling, to use it correctly, you have to have a depth of knowledge in it. Unlike with Vampire or Werewolf, you can actually call upon just common knowledge that people have from movies, TV shows, and books, and use it. And 7 times out of 10, you'll probably be right. That's how it works in World of Darkness too,
Yeah. My experience with the World of Darkness games, I read the Mage book and it's like, okay, I get this, and I ran it for my friends and we had fun. And I talked to all these people say, oh, Mage is so hard to figure out. It's like, with me, I read the Changeling initial rule book. I was like scratching my head. It's like, how does this work? It works here, but not there. It works this time, not that time. How does this work?
Word salad. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. For me, it's probably because I don't like the game, but werewolves. Werewolves on the surface seem pretty easy. If you treat them just as physical creatures of savagery and brutality, werewolves work fine anywhere. But that's not what they are. That is not a good representation of werewolf as a supernatural creature or werewolf the game system. It is not. But to do it correctly, you have to add the spiritual component. They have to be in a place or time that is suitable for them, and you have to also introduce kin, which are a family member of a werewolf, but doesn't have the werewolf gene strong enough to express itself. Those are all integral to the werewolf's existence, and they all fit into the werewolf story and lore, and you have to introduce all of that as well. And I think a lot of people have a problem processing a werewolf beyond just the physical anger and rage of werewolves, because that's how they're depicted in movies, TV shows, books, stuff like that, just creatures of rage and destruction. But that's not what they are. And to portray them correctly, I find it very, very difficult outside of the werewolf game itself. I mean, Demon the Fallen, you'd think that'd be bad too, but Demon the Fallen is all about demons who used to be angels. Angels, create reality, whereas mages manipulate reality. There is some there's some high level crossover in how they think and how they act. So I can navigate that better. Vampire, everyone knows how a vampire is. They're all sneaky. They're all a little bit, woe is me sometimes. And they're very strong. They're very fast. They heal. Everyone knows that. They know not only the physicality of a vampire, but the mentality of a vampire as well. They're usually bored because they're hundreds of years old, blah, 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 stuff like that. They all get it. People get it. So that's also, to me, the easiest. And middle of the road type stuff would be, for me, it'd be Wraith. It would be some of the other ones. There's like Mummy came out too. Like I never read it. But that'd be middle of the road type stuff, not easy, not hard. But yeah, that's my deal on that one. So which ones do you like to introduce? Which other supernatural factions do you like to introduce into your Mage campaign at some point, as long as your feelers about the group are positive?
Definitely. Yeah, I've got a couple of things to say about that. Vampires are easy to understand, but different clans offer surprises. I started with World of Darkness games in the early 90s, so I never forgot the presence of vampires in cities. If my players come in contact with Hollow Ones, they'll learn those mages teach their new recruits how to identify and avoid vampires. Hollow Ones are always on the lookout for them. Ghosts are such a big part of horror and fantasy literature that it's natural to think of using one occasionally. I grab my Wraith 2nd edition rulebook every once in a while and play fast and loose with Wraith powers. I ignore the factions and politics of the game, Wraith the Oblivion. Wraith has some interesting ideas, but it's so strange and so depressing. I never got that far into it. I like using mummies. They mix well with mages. They know a lot, and they are different enough to be interesting. Unlike hedge wizards and vampires who practice blood sorcery, mummies have a lot they can teach mages about magic. They also know the locations of ancient things mages love to dig up. I use World of Darkness Mummy 2nd edition. I don't use Mummy the Resurrection. I thought Resurrection was actually rather poorly done. Werewolves are like steamrollers. They overpower every scene you put them in. However, the werecats called Bastet and the were-spiders called Ananasi work great when used one at a time. The were-spiders have a power where they become a cloud of small spiders and they can reform later. It freaks players out. It can make them doubt they're dealing with a were creature. Bastet, that's the werecat, have den realms that are suspiciously like shallow realms that show up in the book.
Oh, and he froze again. That's right. So there are aspects, if you are familiar enough with Werewolf the Apocalypse, there are subspecies, subgenres of were creatures that fit more into a mage campaign easier. I don't say more, but fit more easily into a mage campaign than straight up werewolves, because straight up werewolves, they are, if you read Werewolf the Apocalypse, they are very, very physical creatures. They are in your face, nasty. If they go first, they probably win against the other two major three. The major three supernatural creatures in the World of Darkness are vampires, werewolves, and mages. Werewolves, even a very starting character, if the werewolf goes first, he's gonna win. They all have claws that do damage that can't be healed even by magic or by vampiric powers. And they're strong enough to just rip your head off in one attack. It's possible. They can do it. Vampires against mages. Yeah, there you go. Vampires against mages. If they're both new characters, the vampire will probably win because all of their powers are front loaded, and they can use them openly without super repercussions. Now, when you start getting to a medium tier and higher mage, that's when the table turns. If the mage goes first, the mage probably wins. He's experienced with altering reality. He can do it in ways that you're not going to see coming. That means he's going to win. But beginning mages, they are pretty much at the mercy of werewolves and vampires. They are just not strong enough to take them in a fight. And if you're in werewolves, that's what they like to do. They love to fight. Most of them, they are physical creatures. That's their love language, tearing heads off. That's how they do it. So you cut off when you were talking about the other were creatures that fit better into the mage campaign. I explained to them why, right. So blah blah stuff like that. So
I've been having some internet problems in my neighborhood, but I'll have to get that resolved with the company on Monday. But I was just talking about. I wanted to finish up how the werewolves, I think, don't always mix so well with mages, at least in my experience. But when it comes to the werecats, the Bastet, they can use their werecat powers to make these den realms that are a lot like shallow realms, which is something that mages, very few mages know how to make, and they want to know how to make shallow realms. And so hanging out with Bastet, there's a lot of things they just might learn. Also, Bastet...
Wait, hang on. You keep saying shallow realms. These are like
yes.
Small pocket dimensions?
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, in the World of Darkness games, except for, I guess, Vampire, there are spirit realms or kind of magical realms you can walk into, and you walk away from Earth into the spirit realms. There's different layers and types and sizes, and a lot of variety there. There was a book put out for Mage in its 3rd edition called Dead Magic 2, and it was all about mages are traveling the world to dig up secrets about magic because their own magic is not working so well. One of those was in Australia a long time ago. A group of mages that we don't even know their names, they created this big shallow realm, and a shallow realm is basically it is a magical spirit realm that you can step into and leave Earth when you step into it, but it is a lot like a copy of the place on Earth that you left. And it is not fully in the Umbra, it's halfway between the physical world and the spirit world. And so because of that, things are just different there. And very few mages know how to make them or even how to work with them. And so if a mage learns that secret, they can use that secret to gain influence or power among other mages. And so Bastet do something a lot like that on their own. And so it doesn't say this in the mage books, but I mean, it's easy to see that mages can probably learn the secret from the werecats.
Yeah, they would want to know about that. I get it.
Yeah, so yeah, that is shallow realms is a term that doesn't come up in mage discussions all that often, but it can be interesting. Also, the Bastet, the werecats, will be curious about mages' possessions. In my games, when a Bastet steals an item from a mage, it's actually a kind of a compliment. They usually don't use the items they steal because they can understand them. If the mage takes it with good grace, he can rely on that Bastet for help in the future and may talk the werecat into returning the item. The Risen is a book for the Wraith game describing a ghost that has repossessed its own dead body. The result is similar to an intelligent zombie. Your players will mistake it for a vampire, making it an interesting opponent for complication in your game. After the players learn the secret, it's hard to use Risen again, but hey, you had your fun. So I don't use changelings. They don't appeal to me all that much and can be hard to understand. Even when you read a few books, their powers apply in some situations and not in others. And it can be hard to figure it out properly how to do that. And so I just don't use them.
Okay, that's fine. All right, let's look at some of the chat. Seth McFulton says, I used werewolves in LA by night. That's entirely possible. In Northern California, and Central and Eastern California, there is a whole lot of land that can hold a werewolf tribe. and something pushed them into LA, it could be the demonic damn vampires. Sometimes werewolves just say, listen, the vampire stench around here is getting too big. We got to cull that population. It's going to start getting super vampiric weird. And sometimes werewolves just go on a vampire hunt. That just happens. So it could be something like that. And that's awesome for a gameplay. Like, surprise, bitches, werewolves. You know, like sometimes that's just fun. So I get that.
Yeah, actually, this may be a good time to share some notes from Mage developer interviews and some newer Mage books where they talk about mages versus werewolves.
Okay.
Some game masters may want to use World of Darkness were creatures, but be afraid of overpowering the mages. And believe me, I understand that is a possibility. Brucato, the longest running developer for Mage, said in an interview he feels were creatures, werewolves, etc., have a mind that has strong animal influences on it. That means were creatures are weaker than normal to manipulation by the mind sphere, which is mental magic that mages can do. Also, there are several mentions in mage books of using the life sphere to lock a were creature in its current form, meaning it can't shift into its battle form, or also using life to force it to transform when it wasn't planning on it. This can be so upsetting to were creatures that they might just panic and flee. So after an initial frightening encounter with werewolves, an NPC can tell the players where to find the info they need to deal with the situation. Then the players can trade that information for favors from other mages.
Okay. Yeah, no, I get it. Like I was saying earlier, when a mage gets to an intermediate level and higher, he has in his toolbox ways to deal with vampires and werewolves that they just either lose or they retreat in fear. You know, that's what happens. And you using the mind sphere, you know, as you gather more dots in the mind sphere, you can manipulate other people's emotions, thoughts, stuff like that. And so if you put a mental block on their command to change shapes as a werewolf, or put a mental block on their command to activate a discipline if it's a vampire, you can just shut them down. Just shut them down. They're not doing that anymore. And that can freak them out. And it could turn the tide of any battle or turn the outcome of any kind of social conflict in your favor.
Yeah, that can be a lot of the fun with the game of Mage the Ascension. The players say, well, I know sphere X and Y up to level 3, so I can do anything. So, yeah, okay, go try it. And then it fails. It's like, man, that didn't go well at all. It's like, well, you know, there's more secrets. If you learn those, you can, you know, rule the day, but you haven't learned them yet.
Yeah. Then we have Max saying, ooh, Wraith, I can make an ashtray shake. Woohoo. Well, come on. Every Wraith starts out in the beginning learning to move an ashtray. That's how it works. Everyone's seen the movie Ghost, right? Everyone's seen that. Yeah, you have to learn to move the bottle cap, whatever. But, you know, as you as a Wraith, you quickly gain more power over the real world, the physical world. And you can make your presence known. It's not just moving ashtrays and flying books around. Gaming with ADHD says, I just get annoyed that everyone wants to play vampire and I have no interest in being a bad guy / monster. Now, it depends on the theme your storyteller wants to do. It can range from, hey, you live in a world of darkness and despair. It is going down the drain. You know it. You're a monster. Turn into the skid. Or this storyteller could run the game the other way. You know this world is dark and dank and horrible and no one gets a fair shot, but you want to make the world a better place. You may be damned. Fine. You're damned. You're going to hell because you're a vampire. That's what you believe. That's great. But you are going to make the world a better place before you go. And maybe along the way, you can somehow fix yourself as well. Most people like to play somewhere in the middle.
Yeah,
but
with the game of Vampire, in the early 90s, it was really popular, and I was playing it too. It had a rule system that was not like the games I was playing before, character creation and how to handle combat and stuff like that. It was new and interesting, and yeah, I wanted to play. And after a while, my friends and I kind of got the same vibe, and we started talking to each other. It's like, okay, we're trying to handle the game as it's written and as it's kind of set up. And there's all these times where our characters have to kind of stop what they're doing and go attack NPCs, a lot of times innocent NPCs, to get blood. Otherwise, we can't, beat the bad guys. We're not strong enough. And it's like, even though it's imaginary, attacking these innocent NPCs for their blood, it's like, I'm just not feeling this. My friends are like, yeah, we're just not feeling it. That's when we moved on to the werewolf game, because it's like, yeah, I'm playing a monster, and to do it halfway right, I just don't feel monstery today. And also with the greater fan base, in the late 90s, early 2000s, there was, like I was saying before, the young blood, the new people were taking over at White Wolf and starting to write the game books, and they started actually saying in their vampire books, hey, everybody's doing it wrong. This isn't a superhero game. This isn't cops and robbers. No, it's about horror and angst and gothy stuff and just feeling so terrible. And so we're gonna push you and encourage you to lean into the horror and lean away from the gunfights and car chases. And so a lot of vampire players at that point said, you know what, I'm moving on.
Yeah, I'm done. Yeah, I mean, what they did was try and restrict the way you play at your table. And that's just stupid. That is absolutely stupid. If you want to make your game more appealing, then you make it as easy as possible, but also as open as possible. You can play it in several different ways. Like I said earlier, you want to play that angsty emo, the world is going the drain, there's no reason for existence, you can do that. If you want to, I want to make the world a better place, and maybe in doing so, I can save my own soul, you could do that too, or any of the different variations in between. I like it. So you don't have to play a bad guy / monster if you don't want to, if you're playing first and second edition vampire.
Yeah. There was some people online who were saying, oh, those awful people, they play it like it's a hero game about fighting the bad guys. Like, hey, if you're having fun, go for it.
Then play something else. I don't care. Shit. Max says, again, the storyteller system, emo themes and personal politics aside, is really good system and overall setting. Yes, I do believe that as well. The great thing about the early editions of all of the World of Darkness games is that it is not a roadmap, A to B, B to C, C to D. It is not the same end result every single time. There are a lot of games that, they end up in the same place. No matter how you winding road, you end up in the same place. Whereas in the World of Darkness, even in the books that ended the old World of Darkness, the Ascension books, the Time of Judgment books, all that stuff, even the endings there, each book had 3 to 5 different endings, depending on, they were all examples. They told you these are just examples. You can make an end however you want. You want the world, if you play the super emo vampire game, the world is shit and it's going to stay shit, it's going to die shit, then you can have it do that. You could have it do that. The world ends, everyone dies. That was the end result, the culmination of your campaign. Or they had all the vampires get cured. The entire group gets cured. That was one ending to Vampire. And it had a couple that were in between. And it told you, hey, use these to make up your own ending. Whatever ending that your group wants or needs, you as a storyteller can make that happen. And I like that a lot. I liked it a lot. It increases gameplay, replayability gameplay, because you could play the same game again from the beginning and have a different ending, a completely different ending to the same game. It's great. I love it. Now we're going to see if he comes back on before I open up the next comment. There he is. All right, there he is. All right, our next comment is from Perfect Tangent. All World of Darkness games are socialism, the RPG. I understand why you're doing that. I understand where you're coming from. But like I said earlier in the day, not in this video, in the day, socialism works scaled down. And the cool thing about the World of Darkness books is that you can scale it however you want. Just your group, increase it to your faction, increase it to your race. You can make the social bubble as big or as small as possible. The smaller your socialism bubble, the more it works. So if you do socialist gaming, the RPG, and you focus on only adventures and tribes and tribulations of your specific coven, of your specific group of vampires, then it will work. It will work. You will have a good time and the role playing will work. But the more you increase the size of your role playing world, then you have to take away some of the socialism, or I found it doesn't scale up. It doesn't function.
Perhaps I don't have the full background on this. I am familiar with who Mr. Max Boyvin is. I've enjoyed watching him on Chillstream. But what was his comment about all World of Darkness and socialism? What's the connection?
Socialism, the RPG. It's I think he's talking more post 2000s World of Darkness, where it all became the super leftist ideology was bled into the pages.
Yeah, the third and fourth editions of Mage the Ascension, you will certainly pick that up reading those books. That okay, I get that.
Exactly, yes. And you don't have to play them that way. You don't.
No.
You don't. And I recommend you don't. I do. I recommend you don't. I do not recommend playing in a way that that does not make you feel comfortable. And if it's a good game, it will allow you to change certain aspects of it without it breaking. You know, so that's why I like first and second edition, because you can alter the feel of the game without the game breaking.
Yeah, in the first edition of Mage, they put out the tradition book talking about the Sons of Ether, a faction of mages in the Council of Nine, and it was fun and interesting and just great. And then in the third edition of Mage, they put out the revised Sons of Ether tradition book. We're going to tell you all about this tradition in the Council of Nine, and it was saying socialists are taking over this faction, and it's a good thing. I was reading, it's like,
yeah,
can I disagree here?
Yeah, I mean, that's you know, that's I hate. I always go back to R. Kelly and Michael Jackson. You know, like I love Thriller, I love Beat It, and Michael Jackson may have inappropriately touched some children. I separate the art from the artist, and if the artist purposefully makes it so I can't do that, they just wrote masturbatory material for themselves. That's all they wrote. They didn't write a game for me. They didn't write a game for anyone. They wrote a game for themselves. I don't like that. I hate it.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the. I go to role-playing conventions. There's a lot of D&D fans, and they say, "What's your favorite game?" I say, "Mage." And they go, "Oh, I'm not. My politics are different." And I try to tell them, "Look, first edition Mage, there was no politics.
There's no politics in it.
You're welcome. First edition Mage will welcome you, and I will too."
Yeah, there's no real world politics in it at all. There is fake world politics, and it's separate. Yeah. It's not like real world. It's fake world, and it's very easy to make that justification. Max says, "Nope, no were spiders. Screw that. He's not a big fan of spiders to begin with, and were spiders probably would be a living nightmare for him." Oh, so okay, I get that.
Okay.
And then we have
were crocodile.
Oh God, no. And we have again, we didn't care about socialism, the RPG in the 90s, because we separated personal from the game. Yes. And so did the writers. Now it's a virtue signal for all the authors. Yes. That it is a mental masturbation now for authors to just spray themselves all over their games. So there is no separation between their thoughts, their beliefs, their product, and, you know, the hopes and dreams of the people who buy it. You know, they're basically covering me in their nonsense. And that was like 18 different entendres there that I'm going to let go. But that is it. I want to thank everyone for coming on this ride with us. Adam, is there anything else you want to say? Something about the three topics you maybe not have gotten to and really feel important to talk about?
Look, just briefly, if you are a person who's never played Mage and your friends have never played Mage, and it's like, well, you know, what is ground zero? I would say get the first edition rule book and get Book of Shadows with it. It has some very helpful clarifications and fixes. With those two games, you can run a great game. You can have a lot of fun.
Those two books.
Oh, I'm sorry, those 2 books. Yes,
That's fine.
those 2 books. You can run a great game. You will stay out of some of the pitfalls of having only the first edition rule book. And if you're having a great time and you like it, then I think the second edition rule book has some clarifications and some help that will make life better for you. And that's how you get started.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for coming with us today. I really appreciate it. You're going to stick around to for when the viewers call in to see if they have some questions for you, and I'm certain that at least a couple of them will.
You know,
So,
I always say everyone is entitled to my opinion.
oh, there it is. That's not arrogant at all. God damn that.
No.
That I got a little hard off that one. All right, that was good. That was good. So I want to thank everyone stopping by, and I hope you have a great day, and we'll see you next time.